it's Lo.
Hi, I'm Hayleigh, and we
are
are Wrestling Winedown.
On this week's episode, we're talking about the greatest and best moments of this week from Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AEW.
We'll also be talking about the word on the street. So grab your glass of wine.
We're going in for the 3 count.
AEW hosted their pay-per-view event All Out last Sunday, and wow, it was a good one.
It was really good. We kind of were a little bit uneasy about things when Jon Moxley announced that he had an injury and wouldn't be facing off against Kenny Omega in their highly anticipated match, but Moxley ended up being replaced by another former WWE superstar, Pac. This was such a great match. I felt like there was a lot of intensity. We didn't know who would win. I think a lot of people were pushing for Omega to win. Pac ended up sealing the deal and winning the match via submission, and I think this puts Pac in a position to face off against AEW's first champion, Chris Jericho, in the future.
I think that this was a great match for him to step in on, and I can't wait to see Jon Moxley get back in the ring against Kenny Omega in their next pay-per-view, Full Gear.
Another match that I really liked was actually on the buy-in. So in case you're not familiar with the whole AEW thing, the buy-in usually takes place before the actual pay-per-view, so it's free for fans to watch. This was the Women's Casino Battle Royale, and it was to determine the number 1 contendership for the women's title. We saw women involved in this match that are already signed to AEW, including Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, who ended up winning the match, Awesome Kong, and Brandy Rose. We also saw women that are legends in the ring. We also had former WWE superstar Jazz involved in the match, as well as Mercedes Martinez, who some of you might be familiar with. She participated in the Mae Young Challenge. She was also on NXT for a little bit, but WWE never signed her, so I'm hoping and praying that AEW does sign her. Like I said, Nyla Rose ended up winning the match, and I think this was a great thing for her. I think a lot of people online are, to be honest, and I've seen a lot of transphobic stuff said about her winning the match, and I think AEW needs to come out and make a statement about this because it's getting out of hand.
Yeah, anytime any of the wrestlers are being attacked, obviously outside the ring, they need to come and say something. They need to defend them.
I feel like this has been an issue ever since she's been signed. People just don't know how to keep their opinions to themselves.
They're
and
buttholes.
they're and they get online and they say a lot of stuff because they're behind their phone screen or they're behind their computer, and they know they wouldn't go up to Nyla Rose and say it themselves, and it's just hurtful. This woman is succeeding. She won this match. She's been working her ass off on this roster. She's very friendly to the fans. I was reading something about how she was just so nice at the StarCast event over the weekend, and I feel like people just judge others based on what they want to do with their lives, and that's really irritating because she's here to entertain. It shouldn't matter what she wants to do with her personal life. And that's the wine and the tea. There are about 3 other matches on the card that I felt really stood out and probably could be the match of the night. I feel like it was maybe a tie. So we had the AAA Tag Team Championships on the line. The Lucha Bros defended against the Young Bucks. They ended up retaining their titles. This was just such a great match. I definitely remember the Canadian Destroyer off the top of the ladder into tables, crazy move, just jumping all over the place, such athleticism displayed in this match. And then at the end of the match, there were 2 men that came out in presidential masks, like those Halloween masks that a lot of people wear during the holidays, right. And they attacked Lucha Bros, and everyone's like, who are these people? And it ended up being LAX, and they just announced that they had ended their contractual obligations towards Impact, and I hope that AEW does decide to sign LAX. I feel like they have such a long storied history, so I think this would be a great move for them. There are such talented teams on the roster that they could take on, and I'm really eager for their future.
Well, and they had a great entrance, so I feel like that's a pretty good sign that AEW will end up signing them.
Let's hope so. Another aspect of this match that I felt like a lot of people were in shock about was Pentagon, who is a part of the Lucha Bros. His mask was taken off. It was ripped off during the match by one of the Young Bucks. And I'm saying one of the Young Bucks because I cannot tell them apart. One has sideburns, the other does not. If someone can help me decipher these two, that would be great because I just don't know. But one of the Young Bucks ended up ripping off Pentagon's mask, and in Lucha Libre culture, this is just so disrespectful when you
Right.
rip off someone's mask like that. We've seen it in WWE. We've seen it with Rey Mysterio.
Like, you wouldn't rip off Bray Wyatt's mask, so why would you rip off the Lucha Bros mask? Like, I know they're not the same thing. I know one is cultural and one is just for show,
Right.
but why would you go and rip off the cultural one when it's just, like, so rude? Like, you wouldn't do
Yeah.
that to anyone.
I think a lot of people are wondering if this was a work or not because it's such a highly disrespectful thing to do to rip off someone's mask. So a lot of people online were wondering if this was a work or not since, you know, ripping off a Lucha Libre's mask is highly disrespectful in their culture. And, you know, I'm not really sure if this was a work or not. I think if it was definitely not taken lightly by the fans. I think they had the reaction that AEW wanted as, oh, you know, why would he do something like that? But at the same time, if it wasn't a work, like, I can only imagine how Pentagon felt. You're in this matchup trying to retain your titles and someone just fucking rips your mask off. Like, I would be pissed.
Me too.
Another great match was Jimmy Havoc versus Joey Janela and Darby Allin. This match was crazy. Darby Allin had a skateboard with literal tacks on the back of it that he attacked people with. Cracker Barrel ended up sponsoring this match, so we saw biscuits thrown at people. People were throwing barrels. It was crazy. It was a crazy match, but Jimmy Havoc ended up picking up the win, and this is definitely a match that I would go back and, like, if you haven't watched it, I would go see the clips and kind of see the outtakes of it because it was crazy. It was a very good match, and I think all three competitors were absolutely insane, and they brought it. I'm just mad that they wasted biscuits, though.
I used to work at Cracker Barrel. Their biscuits aren't that good.
Oh, excuse me. We got Baron Corbin working at Olive Garden, and we got Hayleigh working at Cracker Barrel.
Used
Crazy.
to. That was the past me. I've moved on. I'm a new person.
The first AEW champion was crowned, and we saw Chris Jericho go against Hangman Adam Page. Chris Jericho ended up picking up the win, and I've got to say, this match was good, but I hate to say it. A lot of people online were talking about the ref and how, you know, she was the first female to officiate an AEW World Championship match. I think it was great that they used a woman in this match as a referee, and I think that she did a good job, but I felt like her facial expressions were very, like, out there, and they kind of were distracting, and a lot of people online were saying that they liked how she had a character to her, and, you know, she stood out, but I feel like a referee is there to officiate. They're not
Right.
there to do facial expressions and be a character in themselves. I feel like they're there to officiate. Now,
Well, we've
if-
always seen refs, like, mess up or even stand out, and it's just weird. Like, they're supposed to blend in and just...
Right, like, it's different when they, like, get knocked over, they do stuff like that, but, like, you just have to go watch the match. Like, her facial expressions were, like, too much. It was very dramatic, and I was kind of like, okay, this is getting a little bit old. And then, one thing that really stood out to me that millions of people on Twitter saw, literally, I went through and, like, kept on refreshing my feed, was when the referee ended up handing a blade to Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho rolled out the ring and he cut his face and then he bled. Everyone saw this woman hand Chris Jericho the blade, and I remember I was sitting there. I didn't see it myself, but everyone around me was like, didn't you see her hand him the blade? And when they re-showed it after the match, you see her handing him something. And it was like...
Were you not supposed to see the
You're not
pass
supposed to
off?
see that,
Okay.
no. The pass-off is supposed to be done off camera. Typically, you don't see it. You know it happens because they start bleeding profusely. I mean, I think the match was good, and I think Hangman Adam Page and Chris Jericho, it could have gone either way. I'm glad that Chris Jericho won because Chris Jericho has a long storied history in wrestling, and what better champ, a first champ, than someone that has been all around the world, has won numerous championships, has years of experience in the wrestling business than Chris Jericho. I think Hangman Adam Page will have his time. I think it would have been too predictable if they had Adam Page win, since he is part of the elite. It probably would have looked like, oh, well, they gave it to their own. So I'm glad that they chose Chris Jericho. I think in a perfect world, this match could have been a little bit better if the ref just chilled out, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's super exciting that Chris Jericho won this title, but there was a little... You know,
Chris Jericho lost the title faster than he won it.
Not lost it. He really, really lost it.
So it was reported that 24 hours after Chris Jericho won this title, he flew home to Florida, and he decided to dine at a Longhorn Steakhouse in Tallahassee.
Classy.
Why? I don't even know what that is. Is there no Texas Roadhouse? Outback Steakhouse? Like, what? Longhorn. Anyway, pretty much what happened was the bags got messed up at the airport. The driver went back to the airport to, figure out what happened, and the belt was gone. $30,000 belt, and it's gone.
Disappeared.
But
the good news is
they did return it.
Yes.
They found it on the side of the road.
Right, the Florida police retrieved it and
But did you see Chris Jericho in his hot tub?
With his bubbly, sipping.
A little bit of bubbly. That's what he said.
He
had a little bit of bubbly in his cup, and then he set the glass down, and then he drank from the bottle like a classy man would. But
right. You share some, you drink the rest.
That's what we do. But I don't know if this was a work or not. I read that the Tallahassee police found the belt. They posted a picture and said that they had found it. Then they tweet and delete it. They took it down, and then they put it back again, and now the belt has been found. And I'm kind of like, is this a work or not? Like, this hit TMZ, this hit CNN, this hit everywhere. So I thought it was actually true, but when the police go and delete their tweet, you wonder, was this a work the whole time? And I mean,
smart of them if it is.
Well, I kind of disagree. I don't think it's really smart when you have an actual police organization involved in something like this and they're going and deleting stuff. Like, you have to wonder when it's something more important, I don't know, like a murder or something. Like, are they doing the same kind of tactic? Are they deleting stuff? Like, that's what I think of when I think of if it's a work or not. Is it a little bit We shouldn't have the police involved if it is a work.
AEW is a new company, so they want to get all the media attraction.
But I feel like it could have been done without getting the police involved if that's what they were looking for. I think they were looking for a storyline, and they felt like this was the best way to go.
Maybe
how do you find a $30,000 belt on the side of the road? Someone just threw a $30,000 gold belt on the side of the road. They're stupid. Why didn't they sell it on eBay?
Do like a Seth Rollins type of swing with it, and it just flew out of the back of their truck.
And they left it.
I mean, it is Florida. It's an interesting place.
Last Wednesday when this story broke, former WWE superstar JTG of Crime Time said on Twitter, quote unquote, "First off, Crime Time are not thieves. We're outstanding citizens. We have never stolen anything in our entire career. We borrowed the title to make a message. This was not a hit on Chris Jericho, but a message to AEW. If you want your title back, it's simple. We want the Young Bucks." So they basically challenged the Young Bucks, but they said they had the belt, which makes it look like a work.
This would be something they would do with the 24/7 title.
Well, I don't know if you caught Corey Graves' comment that he made, but he had said something about Jake Maverick going with his wife to a chain restaurant with the title belt, and they were insinuating that it had to do with the whole Chris Jericho losing his belt thing, and that happened on SmackDown. I mean, I think maybe WWE was trying to spill some tea, but the tea is cold now.
The tea is cold. The wine is hot. Nothing is right.
Hot wine.
Exactly.
Like hot
it's
wine.
off. This week on Raw, we saw some updates to the King of the Ring tournament. Baron Corbin took on Cedric Alexander, and Baron Corbin won. And then Samoa Joe took on Ricochet, and oddly enough, they're both in the next bracket.
Interesting. So Samoa Joe and Ricochet, that was a double pinfall. And last week I said that I thought Samoa Joe might win King of the Ring, like by a slight chance. And I feel like they're kind of playing with our emotions now by doing this double pinfall, because I've never heard of a double pinfall.
Me either. So that means this week is going to be a triple threat match.
Right. And like I said, I think Baron Corbin has this in the bag. I think a lot of people have predicted online that he's going to win. I think it's probably going to be between him and Joe. We also saw some updates in the SmackDown side of the bracket. Ali went against Elias. Elias picked up the win. Kind of shocked on this one. I thought Ali would have gone a little bit further, or I was at least pushing for him too, but I think Elias, this is his opportunity. He's done a really good job with the push that he's had. We also saw, in a very shocking match, Chad Gable versus Andrade, and Chad Gable picked up the win.
I was not expecting this.
Absolutely not. Like I said last week, I thought Andrade might win this by chance, and I think a lot of people online thought Charlotte Flair might have had something to do with him maybe winning the King of the Ring. This was a great match. I've said before, but I'll say it again. I think Chad Gable is such an incredible athlete, and I think this match definitely attested to that. And he was the underdog in this match. No one thought that Chad Gable was going to go this far.
Right.
If you have a bracket for King of the Ring, you need to tear that up because you had no idea this was going to happen.
No one guessed this.
Nope. The final 5 for the King of the Ring: Elias, Chad Gable, Baron Corbin, Samoa Joe, and Ricochet. I think we need to call Tyra Banks. She needs to pull out her pictures and be like, I have one picture in my hand and there's 2 of you standing in the front of me. Whoever's picture I pull will be the next King of the Ring. We need that.
I think that either Baron Corbin or Samoa Joe are going to win on the Raw side, and then honestly, I don't even have an idea for the SmackDown side.
I feel like
now.
we might get someone that we don't expect to win. Now that we see how Chad Gable kind of pushed through the ranks and ended up winning against Andrade, I really don't know who might win. Like, I think Baron Corbin will still win, or Samoa Joe, but I wouldn't be surprised if Elias or Chad Gable pulled out the winner, even Ricochet at this point.
Yeah.
It seems like they're really pushing the underdogs in this tournament. We saw it in the first round, so...
And we already saw Baron Corbin take his place on the throne, so I feel like maybe they were just joking with us. They're like, yeah, everyone thinks this, so here you go. And then they're going to make Chad Gable win this.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I think Chad Gable has sat
Right,
in
no, I'm
catering
not
long
saying
enough,
it's a
right?
bad thing. I'm just saying they're
trying
playing with us.
unpredictable. They don't want anyone's bracket to end up perfectly. I'm sure
Nope.
there's one person out there.
They're like, ha.
Yep, I already know it.
But after this triple threat,
I don't know.
no one's right.
I don't know, say. I don't know. This week was very crazy in the women's division. Sasha's back. She's sassy. We've been saying it week after week, but now she has a sassy sister with her.
Mm-hmm.
Bayley turned heel.
We never saw this day coming.
She had the ponytail. Do you ever think a woman with a side ponytail would side you?
With freaking, what's it called?
Inflatable people. She's going to mollywop one of them. I thought she was going to do it on SmackDown, but she didn't. We definitely weren't anticipating Bayley's heel turn on Raw, but I don't know if you noticed like the small details of her heel turn. Before she hit Becky Lynch with that chair, she looked at Sasha, she smiled, and then she hit Becky. I feel like it's always like the finer details that make these moments like this so much more incredible. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And then the next night on SmackDown, Bayley had a lot to say.
She really did have a lot to say. She came out and was saying that the reactions from Monday when she turned heel really confused her because her alliance with Sasha never really ended. So why didn't everyone expect her to be best friends with her again? So now they're back. She says nothing's changed. I don't think she's even admitting her heel turn. She's just saying, here I am with my bestie Sasha. Let's go.
WWE is very interesting in the people that they decide to turn heel because I definitely thought that Charlotte Flair would go to Clash of Champions as a heel, but they want her to be the babyface in her hometown for this pay-per-view. And that makes me think that Charlotte Flair has a really good chance at winning the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship once again because she has that hometown advantage. But you never know. Maybe Sasha Banks will feel the need to come out and help her friend in a time of need. I mean, we really don't know.
I can totally picture that happening. I mean, you've wanted to see Sasha come back on a pay-per-view for the last 2 pay-per-views so far.
It's been a while, yeah.
So I think she definitely will make an appearance to help her BFF Bayley out.
I'm sure you've seen the whole thing with Aleister Black on SmackDown looking for people that he can challenge. And Shelton Benjamin, veteran competitor, stood up to the plate this week and faced off against Aleister Black. And Black ended up defeating Shelton. And I said it last week, I'm tired of how WWE is treating Shelton Benjamin. But I feel like they aren't treating Aleister Black the way that I kind of anticipated him being when he entered the main roster. And I feel like this has been such an issue with many NXT superstars who have been brought up in the last year or two. I think of Nikki Cross, who just recently started getting her push. Chad Gable recently started getting pushed. Ali, Buddy Murphy. There's so many superstars that have been on the roster for months now that haven't been pushed. And I feel like they're doing the same thing to Aleister Black. He was mysteriously gone for weeks, even though he had been doing these segments all the time.
Right.
And then he just went MIA with no explanation. I hate to see this. Black had such a incredible persona in NXT. I would love to watch him, how he entered the ring. His dynamic and wrestling in the ring were just so invigorating. And I felt like now that he's on the roster, of course he still wrestles the same, but when his appearances are so sporadic and there's really no explanation as to why he's gone for, weeks on end, it's kind of disappointing. I mean, I don't like how WWE is using him. We see his former tag team partner, Ricochet, being used for the King of the Ring tournament. I wonder why Aleister Black wasn't seen as good enough to be in the King of the Ring as
Right.
well.
Ricochet's been moving up so fast,
Right.
and then Aleister Black is just kind of hanging out. Like,
Yeah, and I definitely expected it to be the opposite. I expected Aleister Black to be in the spot where Ricochet is. Aleister has definitely paid his dues, former NXT champion, and he doesn't have a actual main roster WWE championship reign yet. It makes no sense to me.
Another character who I think his role was really diminished is Shinsuke Nakamura. I remember when I started watching about 2 years ago and his whole thing with Jinder Mahal, he had a good storyline going there, and then it just went on for too long and kind of fell out. But he's the Intercontinental Champion right now, and honestly, since he won this, I haven't heard anything from him.
Well, you know, he's in this new tag team with Sami Zayn, which I don't really know how to feel about it, and Nakamura is facing off against The Miz at Clash of Champions, which I kind of hope Shinsuke loses this title and The Miz gains his Intercontinental Championship back. Like I said, I think The Miz is one of the best Intercontinental Champions, but Shinsuke definitely needs like a reboot.
He does.
When he was in NXT, I felt like he was just amazing. I don't even know what to say. His feud with Finn Balor, I think about that. I think about all the superstars that he was able to face off with and the amount of time that he had in the ring, and that really made me start liking Shinsuke Nakamura. I didn't follow his career before WWE, but once he became a WWE NXT superstar, I really did follow him, and I felt like once they put him on the main roster again, they didn't know how to utilize him. He's had some championship reigns. He was Intercontinental Champion before. He's Intercontinental Champion now, but he's not where he should be. And this whole thing with Sami Zayn, who, fun fact, Sami Zayn has never held a championship on the main roster, and that blows my mind too. I feel like both these superstars are capable of so much more, but they're not being utilized properly.
Right. The most that they've used Sami Zayn recently is to on everyone.
Yep.
That's it. He hasn't like really been fighting. So putting two superstars together that don't really fight, does that make sense to you, Lo? Because I'm confused.
I don't know, but I know Shinsuke Nakamura won his match against a unknown Andrew Howard.
Oh, congratulations.
I mean, I guess that's good. At least he's, you know, a fighting champion. But he definitely should be ready for The Miz at Clash of Champions.
The Miz better bring it.
NXT this week was quite interesting. We saw Roderick Strong cut a promo, and he lit Velveteen Dream's couch on fire. We know Velveteen Dream loves that couch. He loves to come out to... I'm offended too, girl. We know Velveteen Dream loves to come to the ring on his couch, paraded by beautiful women. He also loves to on everyone while sitting on the couch. He spills the tea, okay? So I felt like Roderick Strong doing this was extremely disrespectful, and it sent a message. And that was definitely Roderick Strong's way of getting Dream's attention. I like this feud. They faced off against each other along with Pete Dunne at the last NXT TakeOver, and I felt like it was a great match. But like I said before, either the Undisputed Era needs to get all the championship gold, which they have Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly with the tag team championships, and they have Adam Cole with the NXT championship. So the only person missing is Roderick Strong with that North American title. So it should be interesting to see if Roderick Strong can complete the task and make NXT undisputed, or if Velveteen Dream is going to end Roderick Strong's dream of becoming NXT North American champion.
I hope
dream
so.
over.
I hope so, because this week Velveteen Dream went against Kona Reeves. It's not that interesting. Like, there's no real storyline there. So for Velveteen to get this new storyline, I'm excited to see what happens and where it goes.
We need a lot of wine for the NXT women's division, don't we?
We do. We really, really do.
So NXT champion Shayna Baszler was in the ring last week, and Rhea Ripley came in, got in her face, and it was announced that Ripley versus Baszler will happen next week. And I'm really looking forward to that match. I think Rhea Ripley is a great competitor. I think she's had some challenges in her career when it comes to her presence online and being a respectful human being, but that's beside the point. Her in-ring work is very good. William Regal, general manager of NXT, announced a triple threat for 2 weeks when NXT finally goes to the USA Network. It will be Mia Yim versus Bianca Belair versus Io Shirai to determine the number one contender to face off against Shayna Baszler. I need Bianca Belair to win this shot. I think Bianca Belair is so deserving. She's so talented. I get on here and I say people are so talented, but please, if you do not know Bianca Belair, you have never watched any of her matches, please go watch it. This girl is beautiful. She can raise people above her head. She is insanely talented. I feel like she needs to get the NXT Women's Championship. I'm sorry I'm going on a rant, but I will fight to the death for this woman.
No, I agree, because remember when we did that episode about the next upcoming megastars?
Right.
She was one of them.
She was.
So go her. She's just like moving up the ranks. She will get this. And
I do think that she's facing off against two hell of a competitors. You know, Io Shirai has been on a roll. She's evil now. She's sassy. She wants to win that NXT Women's Championship. But Mia Yim is also sassy, and she wants to win as well. And, you know, she's had a vendetta for Shayna Baszler. She's attacked Jessamine Duke. She's attacked Marina Shafir. And I think she's ready to face Shayna. But you know what? I think it's Bianca's time. She won her match this week against Tanara Conti via pinfall. And this puts her in a great spot. You're going into a match 2 weeks from now. You have a victory. You know, you're in the ring. So please let her win. Please let her win. I know I hate to play favorites, but I feel like it's her time. Mm-hmm. And especially moving to the new USA Network and them having 2 hours, I feel like it's such a good time.
Fill it with something.
Yes.
So this would be great.
But either way, I stand our women. I would be excited to see any of these women go against Shayna Baszler. I think either way, it's going to be a great match.
Cheers to that.
Amen.
Let's get into our word on the street.
Woo woo!
Like we've talked about before, WWE is having some big changes in their creative department.
Right.
And so recently it's been announced that they have huge changes strictly in the writing department.
They need to. We've seen their creative team.
Right. And we always hear that it's Vince McMahon telling everyone what to do. And obviously that's not working out because people get frustrated, such as Jon Moxley. So the head writer from SmackDown is taking some personal time, and then a writer is going to move from Raw to work with Eric Bischoff on SmackDown, and there will be a new head writer that's going to work with Paul Heyman on the Raw brand. So with all these changes, it seems like everyone has a new lead. So we'll see what this means for the company and each show.
There's also rumors that there is going to be a WWE draft happening in October. There is rumor that the catalyst for this move is, of course, the move to SmackDown. It's rumored that the reason why this is happening is because SmackDown is moving to Fox and WWE wants to flesh out their structured rosters for each of the brands. And we've been saying that this wild card rule is so stupid. Why do they still have it? And I'm still wondering why they have 2 rosters. I mean, I remember a couple years ago, they did have 2 rosters, but people weren't confined to just one roster. People would go back and forth or whatever. How do you feel about this? Do you think that this is a good move for WWE to keep continuing the WWE draft? I mean, with this whole wild card thing, I feel like it gets really confusing about, you know, who's on Raw, who's on SmackDown. And you don't see superstars for so long, you forget what brand they're on.
Right. I mean, I feel like I always get confused when the superstar shakeup happens.
Right, which is like the draft.
Right, exactly. So I don't know why they have 2 of those a year.
They give me a headache sometimes.
I get that they want to be like football drafts, like that's all happening right now. So I mean, it's a season for drafts.
Well, I feel like they are calling it a draft online, but it will be a shakeup.
Yeah,
you know, they used to call it the draft a long time ago, and then they kind of phased it out. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of the brand split with the wild card rule. I feel like it's kind of hypocritical. It almost just doesn't make sense when you have certain superstars going over to a certain show. Like, why?
Yeah.
If they're on one brand, they need to stay on one brand. You have superstars that want to be on TV that you could be using, but you'd rather bring over 4 superstars from the show that's airing next week.
Right.
Sip my tea. Sip my wine. We need it all.
Right. I don't like it. I think that you're right. They should just have either one roster or 2 separate rosters that everyone stays on and doesn't move.
They need to get their shit together.
Get confusing because then every single week we come on this podcast, we're like, what is happening?
Right. And I feel like that's with a lot of people. I see a lot of people all the time. They're wondering, who's champion now? Who's this? Who's that? What roster is he on? Like, there shouldn't be questions like that. Everyone should know off the top of their head who the champions are, you know, who the main superstars are, what roster they're on. I feel like there really shouldn't be any confusion. I feel like WWE keeps trying to trip us up, and I don't appreciate it. Can you believe it's our 20th episode?
Crazy.
It is so crazy that we have been doing episodes since April now, and we just wanted to thank everyone who has either tuned into an episode or follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and been able to interact with us. It's just been so great. I've met so many people, and you have as well.
Yeah, I love meeting wrestling fans and tweeting everyone and DMing. It's such a good time.
I love it. We love you. We love wine as well. So we're going to go drink some. Bye! Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wrestling Winedown. You can find all of our other episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and wherever else you listen to your podcast.
You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at WWDcast. That is at WWDCAST.
Let us know what you thought about the episode. What was your favorite part?
We upload episodes every Saturday.
Until next time, enjoy your wine and, of course, enjoy your wrestling. Cheers!